to It's Time with Keandra Ward. We are here for part 2 of toxic relationships. Now listen, this is a conversation between friends. Hey, Tasha, I want you guys to talk. I want you to comment. We'll be able to put some of your comments up on the screen. I want to have an interactive conversation. But just to begin, my name is again Keandra Ward. I am the founder and president of Keystone Business Institute, where we help you get clarity, gain focus, and consistently generate profits for entrepreneurs. We are an institute of higher learning where you can earn a bachelor's, master's, or certificate degree in different areas of business. But tonight, all right, we are going to be talking just straight under my other brand, Keandra Ward International, to my friends and some of my family. And we're going to talk about toxic relationships. We're going to talk about them in life, ministry, business. You may even think that somebody else is toxic. And then as we're talking, you may find out that, I'm the toxic one. We're going to talk about ways and resources. We're going to talk about, places you can go to get more information. We are going to just be open, transparent, and we are going to do this thing. So before we bring up our guest today, let me let y'all know, okay? This is family, all right? So we talk. So we are going to be transparent. We're going to be real. We're going to be raw, and we may be relevant in your life. Do not take it personal. We ain't talking about you, but we're talking to you, okay? I want you to remember, we might not be talking about you, but we're talking to you. Hey, Mr. Nesbitt, thank you. I appreciate that. So here we go, guys. I want to first introduce our first panelist. I can't even say panelist, y'all. Like, this is my sister, my friend. She's been knowing me since I was like 12, maybe even younger. I'm excited to bring up Miss Teresa Williams Robinson. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself. We can't hear you, baby.
Sorry.
There we go.
All right. How y'all doing? Okay. I'm Terry Williams Robinson. I am a physical therapist here locally in Hillsborough County and Manatee County areas. I am excited to be here talking about toxic relationships again. I've been married for the last 18 years to the same dude. And so I'm just here to enjoy the conversation and see if we can't help make some changes in your life or in the relationships you have.
I know that's right. Did y'all hear that? We kept saying it last week. 18 years to the same dude, okay? She ain't switch it up. 18 years to the same one. So we're going to talk about, when we get started, some of the inboxes I received from people based off of some of the stuff you talked about last week. So the next person I want to invite up is I'm gonna keep saying that, my best friend, my brother, like my go-to. He's the one that's been in the chat, like outing in the chat. We had to go ahead and bring him on. I'm so excited. We are so proud of him. He just recently retired from the military, 20 years. Woo, woo, woo. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. And wait, thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, thank y'all for having me. Alton Doe, like y'all said, retired military, 20 years in the Air Force. Currently in my last year at USF's Executive MBA program, so I'll be done in spring. Outside of that, thank you. Outside of that, working on structuring a healthy platform that hopefully by the time I graduate, we'll be ready to launch. So I'm working on that. And outside of that, trying to progress, learn from y'all, learn from everything we talk about, and hopefully I can provide some advice. I won't say unfortunately because it gives me experience, but I've been married twice. So I have some experience. So hopefully I can help somebody out tonight.
Love it. All right. So I'm gonna bring up my friend Chayezda Chai. I don't like the nickname. I can't get it right, but the whole name I can get right. It's so weird. Her and I were in a book together years ago, and we connected, and we've just stayed friends on Facebook and connected over the years. And we check up on each other like every once in a while. And it was amazing that when we started talking about this topic, she was like, "Yo, I want in," and I was like, You want in? Let's go. So I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit about herself as well. Hey,
Energy on fire.
Right. I'm so glad that you're okay. Last week you couldn't come on because of the storm. So we are so glad that you're good.
All good, all good. Present and accounted for. So happy to be here. I love authentic conversations. And so whenever I can, come not only to learn from the Married to the Same Brother for 18 years, I've been engaged twice and never married. How about that? Okay. So engaged twice. I can get the ring, but getting down the aisle has been an issue. All right. So I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn, but, hopefully offer some advice, to somebody who might be a little headstrong like myself, and might be looking for a change. So thank you for having me, Keandra. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look what she say. Might be looking for a change. I think we all looking for change nowadays. COVID came and everybody's like, listen, let's go ahead and clean this up. All right, so let's bring our last panel, y'all. We got 5 people. We have so many different perspectives. We have married, we have divorced, we have unmarried, we got been in the relationship, live with them. We got everything on the platform today. One of us did it. Okay, how about that? So I'm bringing up my brother, best friend, Harold. You guys have seen him the last 3 weeks. He is an amazing man of God who always has some great just views on life. Just like Alton, they always give me a different perspective because y'all can see how energized I be. I be like, look, yeah. And they be like, well, hold on. Okay, I want you to think about it. I want you to look at it this way. But let me go ahead and Let me go ahead and bring it up.
Hey, what's good? I'm sorry. How y'all doing, everybody?
We're here.
It's good to be here. It's good to be back. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm excited about it, and like I said, hear everybody's perspective, point of views, get into some of the questions we didn't get into the last time, and I know a little bit about a little bit, so I'm ready to learn too.
Let's get it cracking. So we're going to get right into the conversation. One of the things that I wanted to share last week after the episode, when I tell you, the last 2 weeks, my inbox, we get off here at 10. I am usually still commenting at 12:30 because people are like, bam, 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 bam. But one of the things that kept resonating in people's spirits last week was Terry said that when she would ask her husband to talk in the past, it was always like an argument, very aggressive. And so now that they are in the 6th stage, I think she said number 6 of their marriage, and it's not as intense. When she asks him, hey, let's talk, he gets anxiety because he's like, look, I don't know how this gonna end up. And so, but now but her view is, oh, we good. I just want to have a conversation with you. And he like, I don't know. And so it allowed some of the women that were listening to stop and step back and see that maybe the way that they're addressing or handling things is giving them, their husbands or significant others, anxiety when they're in the place of, I'm just ready to clean this up and mend this up. And he's like, your less talk took me to jail last time. Okay. Like, I don't want to do that. So let's start there. Let's talk about the way that we may approach a situation will breed toxicity in the future or even anxiety for the person based off of just how we react. Because you got to understand some people, we are go get it. It's like, I'm like, look, let's talk, let's get it. You know what I'm saying? And so that could be aggressive to a person who doesn't have that type of personality as well. So let's talk about it. Who wants?
Not just their, Keandra, I'll jump in, not just their personality, because I'm very much that way. I call myself a communicator. But if you're in relationship with someone who maybe doesn't have the same level of communication skill, meaning I'm a problem solver. Right? So if there's an issue, I want to fix it. I don't want to sweep it under the rug. I don't want an ulcer. I don't want to go to bed angry. I want to think about it, but it can't fester for weeks and months, going unaddressed. So, but to be in relationship with someone who may not be a communicator, one of the hardest things to do is to figure out what they respond to.
Right.
Because again, if you say, hey, I need to talk to you, that should be something that's very natural and you wouldn't think problematic for a relationship, right? This person you're sharing all kind of intimacies with, but the hardest thing to do is to speak to them, right, about whatever is going on with you or whatever's inside. I mean, every part of my body. But if I say to you, I need to talk to you, you feel like you're going to the principal's office? Like, can we, like, so, but the communication part, I think, is where the biggest breakdown is in most relationships. And especially if you're looking for authentic communication, meaning they may come from an environment where their parents didn't talk about anything, right? And when they did speak about things, it was in a heated argument. And so they tend to not want to engage in what might be heated debates, right? Or differences of opinion. And so I think probably the toughest thing would be for, men and women in general is to learn how to communicate with their intimate partner.
Right. I agree. I absolutely agree.
Actually, I was going to say something to that real quick too.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. I had a conversation with a couple coworkers at one point, a couple guys, and we were talking about how we communicate with one another. And I remember we were, laughing about me thinking that something that my husband did was just not the brightest thing in the world, right? And so how I would talk to him when I didn't think it was, the greatest idea. And so one of the things that he brought up to me, one of my coworkers, he's like, well, who made you the boss of what was the smartest thing to do or not the smartest thing to do?
How about that?
And so as we kind of talked about it was, the scenario was, okay, so I've been in the house cleaning up all day long. I got the house smelling good, candles burning, I'm vacuumed, everything is smelling fresh. He's been outside washing the car, cleaning the yard. He comes in all sweaty and he sits on the sofa. Now, to me, drives me nuts. I think that is the craziest thing in the entire world. Why would you sit on the sofa? And so that could spark, because I'm thinking that's nuts. Why are you doing that?
Right.
And so what was brought to me on the other side was, well, I've been out washing your car, making sure the house looked nice. I'm out there sweating so you don't have to. Now I'm hot and I just want to take a break. Mike, okay. He said, so a much nicer way to say is, hey, babe, I love it when you smell good. Or, would you like me to turn on the shower for you? Do you want it a little bit hot? You want it warm? I'll get it all set up for you since you've been working so hard. And that was a much nicer way of me communicating. Please don't sit funky everything on my sofa. Please go take a shower, because it wasn't so much that I was communicating or not communicating, right? I was communicating from the place that I understood. Like, this is crazy. Why do you sit on a sofa sweaty?
Right.
That's, I think I'm being an effective communicator. However, not looking at it from the other side, the other perspective, it really did change my perspective. So now that's just what I say is, I love it when you smell good. Love it.
So Michaela says communication can be hard when someone is frustrated, and then two people become frustrated, which will lead to an argument. And it's funny because you may not have been frustrated until they came to you, and now you're frustrated based off of them coming to you frustrated. I said, I'm seeing you're moving. You got what you got.
Yeah, listen, starting from the beginning, for me, I think I've been through it where somebody says, let's talk, and I get nervous and I get that anxiety too. But it's a pattern that was established in the past where let's talk led to something else. So you might think it's just saying let's talk, but no, there was a pattern of stuff that developed. So now when you say let's talk, I'm remembering everything else. So it doesn't sound like just talk. You have your nonverbals and everything else. So the communication isn't just the let's talk, it's the sigh before let's talk. And then it's a whole nother thing that you're focused. So it's like, I know what that sigh means. I know what let's talk means. So I'm on Zach because there's a pattern that's already developed. Now it can change, but if you want me to understand that change, there still has to be a new pattern that I have to understand before I don't get anxiety. Now, when I've been in those situations where both people are heated, and I wasn't heated initially, but it just seemed like it was provoked. But it's for me, I have to understand that we both have the intent, I guess, each other's best interest at heart. We have to remember that. If we're both heated, if somebody needs time, you have to give that person a little bit of space. It might be a night, it may be an hour, but give each other space. Don't keep provoking. Somebody stands up and says, "Calm for a second. Evaluate this in about 15."
You're breaking up a little bit. Can you hear us? I think you froze up. It's funny because I was that person. Because again, I am a communicator as well. And my daily job is to solve problems. Like I solve problems all day long. So therefore, it's like, problem, let's solve it now. Bam, and move on to the next thing. That's how my thought process was. You know what I'm saying? And then taking that into relationship, he's like, I'm about to go in the other room and lay down. No, open that door. Let's talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. And not realizing that is toxic. And you have to give them that opportunity to process and come, I'm gonna say it has to be dealt with, but you can't always control the flow and how it's handled. And that was my issue.
I was going to say, Chai said it, and you just said it, that you're problem solvers. I consider myself to also be a problem solver, right? It's what I do on my job every day. It's what you do for them kids that I got. You solve problems.
Yeah.
The crazy thing, though, is that one day I realized on my job that the fact that I was such a great problem solver also made me an amazing problem finder.
Right.
To that frustration that you get when you're going to communicate, adding to the frustration sometimes when one person didn't start off upset and now everybody upset, is that I'm just doing what I normally do. And so because this is my normal thing, I'm a problem solver, I tend to find problems more frequently than maybe somebody else. And I think sometimes we have to be mindful of that. Like if you know that you're a really good problem solver, project manager, right? This is what you do. Risk analysis, if this is any of those things fit what you normally would describe yourself as, then you should really check yourself, because more than likely you're finding more things wrong that you're wanting to talk about and fix, and that other person either sees or cares to try to even tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. HB, what you thinking down there?
The more I hear you guys speak, it kind of brought me back to a time, or the idea that can we talk doesn't actually have to be a series of events prior that you've learned are associated with something bad. It's just the phrasing, it's the question. Because if it's something good, like you cook dinner or it's a surprise, it's, hey, I did this, or guess what I did today, or hey, remember the cruise we was talking about? Can we talk? I don't care whether you've been through negative problems before with someone. It just has that appeal to it. That's just like if you and your spouse was sitting in the doctor's office and the doctor walk up and say, can I see you in my office? And your spouse looking like, yeah, what's going on, doc? And you can't say it in front of us. You got to take them in the office. It just has a negative connotation to it.
Right. So
it's a trigger. It's a trigger.
It's a trigger.
Yeah.
But it's a trigger. You have to talk to each other and figure out what your form of communication is. Because what happens is we communicate based off of how we've always communicated. Then you come into relationship with somebody and you're like, well, this is how I communicate. You see what I'm saying? No, now it's how do we communicate? how should our communication go?
That part.
You know,
Yeah, that part.
how do you like to be addressed? And let me tell you how I like to be addressed. Again, I've had to deal with this and learn in my own relationships. Like, no, like I have to take them into consideration. And being an only child from my mother, okay, let's talk about it. Taking into consideration has not always been my forte. It just has not. However, you know, I'm dealing. You know, I am dealing.
So do you guys believe that certain questions can bring triggers that necessarily the person has never dealt with before?
Ooh,
Absolutely.
I was going to say absolutely. I've learned the term "speak to their listening," and that is I could say one thing to two different people, and they're going to hit two different things, right?
Right.
Because you may say, for example, HB, you might be listening with an empathetic ear, like say someone who grows up in an abusive household, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see their parents bickering and fighting all the time. So anytime there's an exchange, what I call a passionate exchange of words, it might trigger that person to think it's an argument. No, we're just passionate, right? Like,
Right.
as long as we're not disrespectful to one another, there are no hands being thrown, we're not touching each other. It's a passionate exchange of words. But
Right.
someone who has never been in an abusive relationship or household, they won't be triggered by, maybe an elevated pitch. They just think, oh, she's passionate. But it
Right.
really depends on what that person identifies with as a communication style or lack thereof, right? They may be the strong silent type. And that could be both good and bad, right? They only speak when needed, when necessary. Or it could be that they don't know how to communicate, so they say nothing at all. Which to me, that would be detrimental because we got to talk. Like we're gonna have to talk this thing out.
I'm the type that once I get quiet, it's a whole problem.
Oh, the best example of that, and I shared this just 2 days ago. Do you all remember the movie Fast and Furious? There's a scene with Mark Wahlberg and Tyrese, right? Not Mark Wahlberg, but Paul Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the club, and the guy puts the rat on top of the guy's chest, and there's a metal bucket over the rat.
Yeah.
And he said, "Don't worry about the rat when he's making noise, right? Because he's trying to figure out what's going on. You worry about him when he gets quiet, because now he's trying to find his way out of here." And that's me. As long as I'm talking to you, we good. There's a chance to turn it around. But the second I get quiet, it's about rap. It's about a rap.
Now Takenya says, "Hey Takenya." Takenya says, "Withholding is not good either. Like we utilize withholding sex, withholding conversation, withholding engagement, whatever it is. But that's a toxic behavior within relationship." Because now, I'm withholding this because I'm punishing you. First of all, how you gonna punish a grown man or woman? Okay, let's talk about that. They are not your child. So how you punishing them? I would be that I withhold conversation in the middle, baby. Ghost and quiet. Okay, until I felt like it. And I'm talking about block everything, every area. I'm talking about social media, phone, internet, email, all of them blocked until I felt like talking again. And then I'd unblock everything and be like, all right, I'm ready now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, there was a season in my marriage early in which I did that often. That was kind of my way of kind of shutting down. Anybody who knows me, all of y'all know me, I'm a talker. I'm always boom, boom, boom all the time. And so not only would I withhold information, I would withhold conversation, attention, intimacy, sex, however you want to call it. I would just shut down completely. I didn't want to be engaged at all. And what I realized is not only was it a toxic behavior within my marriage, me towards my husband, it actually began to backfire on me. Because like I said, as I started to grow, as I started to change, as I started wanting more conversation, interaction, intimacy without sex, right? It was very difficult because he was so used to me not wanting to engage or not wanting to. And so it was like a new learning between the two of us all over again. Like I said, one of those phases that we had to start relearning how to do that. And so I had to learn, even if you're mad, to not withhold. Now there would be the communication of, listen, I'm really upset. And so because I'm upset, if I say something, it might not sound right. So maybe we need to just be silent for a few minutes. We can sit in the same room. You can look at me, I look at you, but maybe we don't need to talk right this second. It was way different than me just saying, well, I'm just going to go to bed and we're not going to speak anymore. I'm just going to go in the garage, or I'm going to leave. Or, I'm going to get on the phone, talk to Keandra and tell her about it. We go on revival.
Let's see what one of our men, what do you guys have to say about that? Like the withholding side, from your point of view. And
I agree.
Withheld. Because you go the other way.
I found it as a like an emotional blackmailing tool when it was done to me.
Good.
Wow.
And therefore,
write it down.
became,
I know, emotional blackmail. Whew.
Yeah, and therefore it taught me that if I do this, expect this punishment. So therefore, it had me walking a thin line. How they say, tell them about the gun line, boss. I knew what a gun line was, But then, like she said, it ended up backfiring because to stay away from that gun line, I sought outside atmospheres, so I wouldn't always be close to that gun line. And then when she wanted to engage me, I was so used to not being engaging with her that I found it weird. Like, what's the problem? What do you want? Like, who sent you? Like, there's got to be a motive now.
Like, who sent you?
Who you working for?
Yeah. What about you, Alton?
I agree with HB completely. I think it's for me, and when it was withheld, anything was withheld. I kind of focused my energy in something to where I'm not in that negative space. So I focused it on sports or going to the gym. But if I wasn't focused on positive things or something that was going to build me, it was a dangerous place to be because other things could sneak in there. But me, majority of the time, I go play basketball for 4 hours and come back. But then I got used to that. So being so used to finding something else to fill my time up, when it was time for me to try to come back, it was hard to find that I guess that balance to have that conversation because I was so used to going filling that time up with something else. But not everybody fills it up with basketball. Some people fill it up with other conversations with other people. It just all depends. That's a dangerous place to be. So if you don't want them to fill that time up with, whatever else, you have to know that person, but also understand you can't withhold for too long. You shouldn't withhold at all. You should be able to have a conversation. But if you're going to do that, you have to be extremely careful.
Absolutely. So let's kind of switch it up a little bit. One of the topics questions that someone had was, what about using or looking at the toxic experience with whether it's life, business, ministry, wherever you are, as a social experiment or a project, like you're now trying to fix it. Terry, let's start with you.
Well, listen, you know how I feel about that. I learned DIY should be saved for furniture and maybe some decorating because I have tried it in the other way, and I'm telling you, it does not work out.
I'm sorry. You can't DIY your man or your woman. Y'all heard that? You cannot DIY them.
I learned also. I don't want to even say the hard way, but I learned the hard way that the only way is to send it back to the manufacturer. So I'm gonna get biblical for a second. I didn't make them. I didn't create them. Therefore, I don't have the qualifications, the clearance, the job clearance, none of that to fix it. I can't. I have to send it back to the manufacturer. That's it. It is not. It's not me. I cannot be the technician on that.
To know it.
Yeah.
Listen, God, I need you to come get your child.
Listen,
Talk
do
to
something.
your child. Heal your child. Listen, be in my prayer for like,
You got to be careful though, because I found myself laying on the floor one day, telling him to fix him, and all of a sudden he said, "It's you I need to fix."
don't think you ain't gonna get fixed. He gonna touch y'all both.
Yeah.
What's that? I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Anybody else want to comment on that?
I'm a work in progress, so all I can do is work on me because that's above my pay grade. Okay, and in the relationships that I've been in, all of my partners have been 8 to 10 years my senior, right? And so I'm looking at you for guidance, leadership, a level of learning that I should aspire to. And trust me when I tell you, it's some 50 somethings out here that need to go back to pre-K. They need a whole do-over. They need a do-over. And I don't know how they've gotten this far in life. Who have you had in your circle? Who have you had in your circle that has allowed you to get this far and be this big of a failure? Like, really? No communication skills, no follow through, just want things the way they want without compromise. I'm like, who are these people? Like HB said, who sent you?
That's my favorite thing.
And I know age doesn't create maturity, but at some point you got to say, like, I need to grow up. Like, I need to grow up. I need to try something different. I've been married 3-4 times and I ain't get it quite right all the way, So what can I fix, right? To make this next go round different. But not willing to learn a new trick at all.
I will say, I realized, caveating a little bit, that as a woman who had not dealt with herself and her issues, I became toxic in relationships because I chose not to deal with me. It was easier for me to find fault in you than to deal with me. It was so much easier, okay? Because I'm a problem solver and I'm a researcher and I'm always looking, okay? So therefore, it was so much easier to do that. But then in relationship, I became toxic because now I'm picking, right? Now I'm like, I know you know what I'm saying? I'm looking, I'm looking for stuff because then it takes it off of me. So a lot of times when we talk about toxic relationships, we're always talking about the male perspective of it. They're toxic men and sis if he's like this and if he treats you like this. But there are women out here that are toxic as all get out, tearing down men, and then we get the result of that toxic woman, and now we got to deal with all this foolishness.
Or not. Or not.
I mean, well, depending on you might be married to him, so there's hey, you know what I'm saying, or not, but you had to get to a place where you realized that was something you was gonna have to deal with. You had to get there to realize it. So then, as a woman, we have to look at how have we been toxic, and having toxic women. So let's talk about just women being the one that's toxic, because we always want to blame. It's easy to blame the man. Because that's what society says, like the toxic men, the narcissistic men, the men that's but there are narcissistic women.
Absolutely.
And we never want to discuss that. We never want to talk about that.
Well, I was going to say narcissism, that you brought that up. I just recently, I was listening to something, I heard something. They said narcissism actually has a lot to do with low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And so as a narcissist, a lot of times what it is it's almost a reverse of what they actually feel. So they become more self-absorbed because of a low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And so with a lot of women, like the toxicity in women, as funny as it is, I feel like it's multifaceted. Um, Black women, white women, Hispanic women, all of us have kind of different experiences, right?
Mhm.
And so, since I can only speak from my experience, right, as a Black woman, a lot of things that happen that cause us to be toxic is the images that we see of ourselves and how we believe that other people see us.
Mhm.
So, that negativity of, this, when you think about the Black girl, right, head is always going, how they think that we're supposed to speak, how they believe we're supposed to act.
Absolutely.
Those types of things create these toxic type behaviors in relationships. As little girls, we're often told that we're always going to have to do it ourselves. We're going to have to get it ourselves. Ain't nobody going to come and save you. Even in our one Disney depiction of us as a princess, we had to save our own prince. And if he was going to stay with us, he had to stay a frog.
You had to say
Listen, this is for real. So in relationships, what happens is because of that one little stereotype, right, that all of us little Black girls have been exposed to throughout our life. In a relationship, we feel like we have to be heard, we have to be the boss, or we have to be in charge. And it's not because we don't look to our men to do it. It's just that we've always been told that they won't. We've always been told that we're going to have to. So we don't even walk into it thinking that we're just going to be partners. We walk into it thinking that I'm going to at some point have to be the boss and carry some weight. And even without thinking about it consciously, it's how we go into relationships a lot of times, especially as we get older and become professionals. It's how sometimes we walk in on a job, with businesses, even in friendships. We're so used to having to be, I won't say necessarily the aggressor, but being the person who's got to hold it up, hold it together, fix it. You got to break it down. You got to build it up. We've been told that since we were little girls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can honestly agree with that, as far as, already feeling like we have to come in on this aggressive type tip, on this, hey, you're not going to outdo or beat me because I'm just as smart, and I have just as much experience as you do. But Alton, I see your face over there. Let's talk about, how do you feel about toxic relationships, and what if you are in a toxic relationship as a man and the woman is toxic? What does that have you been in a toxic relationship with a woman, and how does that look?
The first thing I've learned is not to call a woman toxic. First off, so I'm not gonna make that mistake. But what I will say is, what I've learned over the years, I have to be the best me I can be,
Right.
and focus on that, and understand that partner you have, they have to understand that you want them to be the best that they can be. And it's a matter of what you choose to focus on. If I'm focused on you being in the streets, if that's what my focus is, I'm not able to be the best me I can be, because my mind is triggered by something that has nothing to do with progression or us getting better or us getting closer. So it has a lot to do with what you choose to focus your energy on throughout the day. And then you have to recognize, is my focus throughout the day making me toxic? Um, I've
Very
been
good.
with women that tend to have a history of men cheating on them. So they will look at a pattern of their past relationships and apply that to a current relationship.
Right.
But my pattern is, I go to work, I go to the gym, and I was a single father, so I'm taking care of my kids. That's
Right.
my pattern. But if you don't see me, your pattern is, oh, I can't see you, so you must be doing something. So I'm gonna start asking you questions. That's where that anxiety comes in, because of that toxicity that comes from that. I'm not calling the woman toxic, but I'm saying the focus is kind of what makes things feel toxic on the receiving end. But
Yeah.
once both parties understand, you have to be the best you can be for that relationship, and that's where your focus is. I think, for me, that's what I've learned I had to do for me.
Yeah, and help and focus. I like that. I like that. What if we're discussing, like, all right, so it could either be the male or female. We know that they're toxic. They know that they're toxic, but it's unmanaged. Like, y'all just keep going with the punches. Unmanaged toxic behavior, like, continuously. and then you decide to stay together, or you decide to, like, what do you do, or how do you handle if both of y'all know y'all both probably toxic, and what this is toxic, but nobody's willing to be like, you know what? Harold,
Go ahead, Harold.
Go ahead.
I don't understand that, but
I'm with Harold.
I don't expect my refrigerator to toast my bread. So if that's what you are, then, and I don't want that, then I'm gonna find me a toaster. I'm not gonna expect my refrigerator to do it. Some people are just not. They're not gonna change. It's just who they are.
Right.
So me saying, "Well, I'm gonna deal with this," is
the likelihood.
Yeah. And I realized that a lot of people who have like Alton was saying about the patterns, I've realized or come to realize that our paranoia paints a mirage. It takes real circumstances and paints a different picture. So therefore you emotionally expect a different outcome. And that's not always, we always have to ask ourselves, what is really happening? Like he said, I go to work, gym, kids. You, as the person who have been hurt before, who looking at this pattern that may seem, you have to really sit down and say, is this the same?
Right.
And sometimes emotions help you paint a different picture than what you're actually seeing, what is really reality.
So I remember being actually in church one time, and they were talking about emotions, and he was like, it's not what you feel, it's the reality of what it is. And there were women on the side like, it is what we feel. Feelings are valid. And I'm sitting there like, you know what I'm saying? But when you think about it, a lot of times, as we are beings of feelings. Like we feel, the way we feel is different. The way we look at things is different. The way we grasp and understand things are different. So we are always going, and a lot of times from an emotional standpoint. Now you have some women who just have no emotional capacity at all, but you know. But you know what I'm saying? But a lot of times it is very an emotional thing. And so having to deal with that emotion and not really dealing with the reality can become a problem and cause toxic behavior. So let me ask you guys this. How do you guys feel about the fact that can a toxic person and be a narcissist? Can they coexist? Is that something that is equal or exclusive? Like if they toxic, they a narcissist.
I think the roots are similar. I won't say that they're the exact same, but I think it starts from the same space.
I think that it's kind of like it could be similar, right? But then sometimes the toxicity isn't even necessarily always something as sinister as like you said, that narcissism or that actual toxic, like that person that's checking your phone or that's accusing you of something. Sometimes the toxicity in people they don't even realize that it's toxic behaviors are the things that they've maybe learned independence. When you're really independent, you don't mean any harm to anybody, but you won't let somebody in. And what you don't understand is someone who's like Alton, who we all know is loving and kind of wants to be involved and let me in, right? And if you are so used to kind of being all by yourself, the toxic behavior, the relationship, it can't go any further because you're like this and you don't even realize. So I think that the toxicity isn't always something that is deliberate or even as sinister, like I said, as some of the other things. That sometimes it's these behaviors and these patterns, like you said, that we learn just because, like you said, Alton, you were a single father for a long time. you may not understand that in another relationship, that somebody who maybe didn't have their own children or loves children and wants to be a part of that. And you're so used to doing it all on your own and you don't need help for this. And I'm just going to play ball. Maybe she wants to play ball with you or pick the kids up for you, but allowing somebody to be a part of those things that sometimes we don't mean to be, and we really can be. So I think that they can be mutually exclusive. They can kind of intertwine. I think there's just so many different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
I agree.
I've been in a place where I had to stop and say, Keandra, you're not the man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you are not a man. And because I'm so used to handling my household, doing the things that I needed to do, I would do stuff. And he would be like, well, why you ain't have me do it? And I'm thinking like, dang, you could have. I didn't even think about the fact that you do it because I'm so used to doing it. Not that I didn't want you to, not that I didn't think you were capable, but simply because I'm just like, bam, bam, bam. And then, y'all know I'm a planner. So I'm like, boom, 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 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, here we go, da, da, da. And then if it don't fall in that mode, I'm just getting it done. And so I've had to step back and say, hold on, you're not in this alone. So I think me having that, you addressing that and me being like, hold on, let's focus. Let's look, you're not in this alone. You have to step back and allow the man to be the man. And and the men have to allow the women to be the women. You know what I'm saying? Like, allow that, but that has to be something that you're aware of. A lot of times we're not aware.
Yeah.
What y'all think? What you say, HB?
I agree.
No, somebody else had their hand up while you was talking.
Okay, go ahead.
So about this whole independence thing, that would be my toxic trait. All right. Single mother, 25 years, 2 failed engagements. Okay.
So what I would say, Chad, to that, honestly, just from something within, like I said, within my marriage, having to figure out is that independence, whereas it has served you well, right? It's how you've been able to do everything. For a lot of us, it's served us well. It really can be in a man or with a relationship. Like my husband would say it, and I didn't think about it, the first few times I heard it, right? He'd be like, well, I know you don't need me, but. I know you don't need me, but. And at first I would say, like, I mean, why do you need me to need you? Like, isn't that like great that your wife is like, I get it. And then I finally started to listen. He really felt like I didn't need him. And so in any relationship, all of us like to know that we have a place.
Right.
He needed to know he had a place as my king, as the head of my house. Me thinking that my independence was saving him some trouble, I was really causing problems. So your independence, whereas again, not intentionally to be harmful, but if you don't allow someone to come in and say, hey, when I meet a need for you, then they feel like you don't have a place for me.
Right. So speaking on that, there's a difference for me in making room and you showing up. And what I mean by that is I've made room, but I've made it very clear. My kids are grown. I know exactly what I want. And I've even compromised on some things. I'm not a type person. I'm a international player. Okay. And you can come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. All right. I'm just saying. If you fit the bill, just show up, right? But when you I need you to show up in the 100% capacity that I show up.
Right.
And that is where I'm finding my issue, is that there have been, like we've said, toxic women in these men's past. And so they run into someone like me. I know exactly what I want. This isn't going to be a cat and mouse game. Listen. Because if I take this lipstick off and I let this head out, I might play ball better than you play ball, right? So, but the issue that I'm having, and I've even I've taken the cape off. Okay, so the cape is gone, right? I'm at the point now where I'm like, hey, can you hang my curtains for me? Like, I need somebody to come and help me do something. But it's the being able to have somebody show up and be dependent on. Like, say, for example, you go to your job and they know you show up on time every day, you do your job well, and they give you more responsibility, right? To have someone say they're going to show up and then do something totally different, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And you don't have to do that with me. Just don't show up, right? So it's the making the room is one part of it, but then also having the person that show up and actually want to do what they say they're going to do.
Right.
And right now in these COVID-laden streets, if I could throw this pen, I would. It's rough out here, okay?
So Willie says, or Will Garland says, independence can come from the lack of ability to trust.
Mm-hmm. Kind of exactly what you're saying about that. If you don't show up, then, I have no need. Because again, not even realizing it, you're so used to stepping in for people who haven't shown up that can be intimidating. Because, so I'm gonna tell you, like I said, on a job, I tell anybody, I'm not always early. I'm not even always on time. But when I show up, trust that it's going, listen, that you can count on anything that I'm doing and I'm saying. But it might be intimidating initially, like if straight out the gate, you're like, listen, I got this, because I think we talked about it last week, those lists. So you have this list.
No, I don't even have a list.
We're just talking about
I've resigned to the fact that I'm not ever going to be someone's doormat. And when people who are accustomed to running into and meeting doormats, I'm the opposite of that.
And it becomes hard. Oh my goodness.
And so I'm gonna call you on it.
Right.
I mean, like quick.
It becomes an interesting dynamic because
and I'm a bow out gracefully.
You crazy? No, I just peeped you out. Okay, I got you.
I got you.
So let's talk about how we talked about, even for me, just in being in ministry for a very long time, there were areas of it that would be toxic, but it was based off of characteristics that had narcissistic patterns. Right? But then we're under the guise of ministry and God. So I'm sticking around and I'm handling it. Sorry, guys. I'm sticking around and handling it, but it was horrid. How do you begin to remove yourself from toxic situations?
Sometimes I think it's about recognizing toxicity. Because a lot of times, like what we've been talking about, a lot of times people don't even recognize that they're in a toxic environment, or that they're being toxic, or what's happening around them is toxic. Because sometimes things become almost like a habit.
True.
If you're so used to, like if you're a fireman and you're so used to walking into a burning building, right? And there's fires all around all the time. All you used to doing is putting out the fires. That's it. You never understand or realize that you could actually walk into a building that is not on fire, doesn't need a fire extinguisher, and doesn't necessarily need you in that capacity. Like if you're so used to it, it becomes so natural and normal that you're not even clear that this is a toxic environment. Like I said, on a job, in ministry, in a relationship, even in friendships. If you have a friend that every time they call you, it's, girl, guess what happened? You're so used to that conversation that you don't even understand that is starting to weigh on you or drain you. You know what I mean? You don't even understand. Like, it's
right.
Because it's so normal. That's just how she is, girl. In your relationship, well, that's just how we communicate, right? On your job, this is just how things go. And I think a lot of times it's first being able to identify, what is this toxicity? What is it that's keeping me from growing? Because that's what we had even talked about before, that toxic things are the things that poison us and keep us from growing, keep us from getting to the next level, no matter what that is, whether it be internal, whether it be in our business, whether it be on our job, being better at something on our job, in a relationship. But if we're not growing in it, it might be a sign that there's some poison or some toxicity, and then we just have to kind of identify it. Because like I said, a lot of times it's not as obvious as somebody going through your phone or somebody trying to treat you like a doormat. It's not as obvious as someone talking to you crazy.
That's true. Alton, how do you feel when it comes to the healing process, or the it's time to look at myself and it's time to grow? What does that look like? How should people, if you had to go through it, how did you go through it? Or if you've had to help people through it, because you do talk to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like me,
right.
You talk to a lot of people. So let's talk about that.
For me, I think it's understanding you have to find your happiness. A lot of people don't recognize their toxic situations, whether it be a job that they go to work at. They go to work every day. They don't like their job. They don't like waking up for their job. What makes you happy? What could you do that makes you happy? What makes you feel good? If you can't find a job that makes you happy, figure that out. If you can't find out, like sometimes you can ask a woman, what makes you happy? Where do you like to go? What do you like to do? And they can't define that, but they want you to give them the world. But they don't know what world they really want. They know what Instagram tells them, and they know what the TV tells them.
Yeah.
But what makes you happy? If you're happy sitting at home eating chips, and we're watching a show that comes on every week, that makes you, if you know that's what makes you happy, we can do that. But you have to let me know what that is.
Right.
But you have to find I had to find happiness within myself. It's all about self growth, understanding yourself, and truly recognize better things out there. Fortunately for me, being in the military, I was able to travel the world, see different. I would have never placed myself in. And now when I go back, I know what makes me
Right.
somebody.
So
But
you
not able
experience that, you being able to have those experiences allowed you to go back and see what makes you happy and to bring that into wherever you are. I think you froze up a little bit on us. So, I mean, let's kind of continue that conversation until we can grab them back. Like how do you begin? Like for me, let me tell you guys, I'm gonna give y'all my little testimony in like 2 minutes. So you know how the testimony services, and you got 2 minutes, honey. Okay. Two. Right, let me give it to y'all. When I realized that not only was I in a toxic situation, but a lot of my reactions were based off of me not healing from my childhood things and some things that happened to me. And then, just having this toxic back and forth toxic. We separated, we broke up or whatever. And I did a 40-day fast, fruits, vegetables, and water. I ain't watching no TV. It was me, the Bible, Jesus. Like, first of all, sir, because I can't keep going like this. I mean, I had friendships that was acting a monkey. Like, everything around me was just in straight chaos. And so, just like Terry said, that sometimes for me, as a believer and as a child of God, my first recourse was, let me go back to him, because apparently what I'm trying to do isn't working. The second thing I did, most people know that I have my bachelor's in psychology. I went to therapy, okay? Not only did I talk to God, I took my butt and sat in Tim. I told you about Tim the other day. I be calling Tim. Okay? My homeboy, Tim. I went to therapy, and then I began to look at myself. Like, what are the things that people continuously tell you about you?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Situations.
Yep.
You know, you can be in different relationships, different friendships, and you hearing that same thing. Okay, then that means something. You need to pay attention to that. So those were the things that I did, and I started taking those. And then I started calling my friends. I was like, "Yo, I'm sorry for what type of friend am I? What type of, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Have I been a great friend? I think HB, I probably called you like, have I been a great friend? What type of friend am I?" But I wanted to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about me so that I could begin to deal, because I knew I wasn't happy and I knew I didn't want to live like that. And I also knew that there was more for me than in my whole life than what was happening.
Keandra,
in me.
What I have to say about that, and I did that very thing, it takes a lot of courage, first of all, to pick up the phone and ask somebody to call you out on your stuff. I had a friendship with a male that's 16 years now. He's one of my closest male friends. And we dated for years, on and off, but we were never really on the same page in the same book, right? So, I mean, we were really, really good friends. But I knew he would give me the most candid, unadulterated, caring response to my question. And I was like, okay, although we are not in a relationship, what can I do to be better?
Right.
And boy, all I can say is after that conversation, I laid on the floor in the fetal position for about 45 minutes.
On the floor, you hear me? On the floor.
I cut all the lights out. I laid on the floor. I curled up. I sat with it. I called him the next day and I said, you know what? I mean, I was boo-hoo and I thanked him so much. He said, because we may never end up, in a long-term relationship, but I want to see you happy.
Right.
And in order for you to be happy, I know you know how to make yourself happy. He said, but to be happy in a partnership, you're going to have to do this, this, and this. And he laid, and a lot of times, and I can speak as a woman, we don't ask that question.
We don't.
Of the males we've been in relationship with. They have the front seat, the best knowledge, and we go out and ask our girlfriends, well, what's wrong with me? And they say, nothing, girl. It's all his fault, right? And you still haven't fixed the problem because you didn't ask the right people.
Right, the right people. And you know what's so great about that is when I went on, listen, I called it my forgiveness tour, okay? When I went on my forgiveness tour, I called exes. I was like, I'm sorry, okay? We good. Please call me. Tell me about myself. Like I went on and I promise you, in my journal, it is called my forgiveness tour. And what they said to me, I meant that thing. I was so serious about being better. And this was probably about eight years ago. I was so serious about being better. HB, I've been seeing you shaking your head. What you got to say?
No, I was just, testifying and agreeing with everybody.
I saw this.
Hey, I'm with y'all. I'm with you when you're right. So I ain't got nothing else to say. I'm just applauding the honesty. I'm glad y'all. Yeah. Teach your friends.
We're working on it.
Teach your friends. Don't hold this information. Teach your friends to do it too, please.
Each one teach one.
Absolutely. No one left behind.
Teach your friends. Yeah. And I think that sometimes we do have to be okay with people loving us. I think that sometimes we're just not okay with what love looks like because we don't have a definition or a view of it, or we don't have any examples that show where we in our hearts want to be, but we have no way to get there. You know what I'm saying? We don't have any guidance, no nothing. And so therefore you're usually trying to map this thing out and figure it out, in your own little way, because there isn't. I remember posting years ago. I was like, I know a lot of married couples and don't none of y'all won't make me want to be married. Like, you remember that post, HB?
I do.
You remember
I
that?
remember that post, yeah.
I think we talked about it.
We did. I was like, I'm so sorry.
You did.
I gotta fix some stuff. I was like, and you know what? There was, like I said, there was a season when if anybody was hanging around with me and my husband, we did not make them want to be married. That was faux show. So, but with that post, actually, that was part of some of the stuff, from the journey, because it was kind of like, we got to figure some things out. What is going to make you happy? What's going to make me happy? How can we make each other happy? Otherwise, we might have to make some other decisions and choices at this point.
Right, right. Alton, can you hear us? You good?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on over here. But what I'd like to add is you have to want to be deliberate in your if you don't know the answer, you have to be willing to seek the answer, and not from friends that we talked about earlier. Your friends may not have the best answer, your best intentions. They have your best. They don't know what that is. They know what that is, right, but they don't know what that is for you. So you have to be deliberate. You and your partner.
So you and your partner have to be deliberate. You know what? And I can honestly, until we can hear him again, because it kind of paused again, is as a friend, and then as a female friend to males, I don't play about them. So I'm like, oh, she did. Oh, really?
Well, they be like, oh,
you gonna handle it? Oh, I need to go. Like, who
hey, she ain't lying, man. She ain't lying. I done had her handle. I done had her handle one for me.
HB, you need a pit bull in your corner. You need one. I'm just saying. You need a good one.
Cut one off for me. I ain't even have to say a word.
Listen,
she cut that off for me.
Because sometimes, as a man, you don't want to have to put the hammer down like that. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know if it's going to come across the right way.
Exactly.
However, from
let me tell y'all. I said, let me read that. Let me see what.
Wait, what?
And then I said, hold on. And then we're not gonna pretend like this came from you, honey. Okay. We're not gonna pretend like this came from Jana, girl. We're not gonna pretend like this came from you, right? So what I'm gonna do is, this is his sister, okay? And let me explain, all right? Okay. This is what's gonna happen from here. Okay, this number, don't you ever call it again.
I ain't heard from her since. I have not heard from her
since. If you see him on the street, run. You know how they do that thing? Run.
For sure.
We at the end of the day, it boils down to us dealing with us, because like Terry said, we can't have these DIY projects. You can't DIY somebody and try to make them into what you want them to be, because you will continuously be frustrated because they can't be something that they're not designed to be. They don't have the courage to be. They don't have the drive to be.
The tools.
The tools. You trying to make them. I want you to look at it different. I want you to see things different. Then you gonna frustrate yourself.
Yes, Lord.
A person has to want. I mean, it took Keandra to get sick and tired of looking at her life, her relationships ending in this certain way. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that was the moment that I was like, let me take a look at this. You know what I'm saying? That person is sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's not gonna go down. You know what I'm saying? And we have to. We just have to continue to deal with ourselves. We have to deal with ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
And a lot of people, Keandra, like we discussed before, they just don't take the time to do it. Right. It's some gut wrenching work when you have to own up to every decision that you've ever made, and how some of them just don't pan out. And you just have to accept it for what it is. I look at my past relationships, and I'm not I'm not angry, bitter, or upset about any of them.
Right.
Not a single one. I look back on them and I talk about them with such amazement because I'm like, I learned this from this one and this from that one. And I went and did this and I helped this one get that. And I look at the accomplishments and I at one point I could say, oh, did you feel used? No, it was an even exchange. You're an adult, right? And nobody held a gun to my head. So they say fair exchange ain't robbery. I stayed, listen. When people start to feel like victims, oh, this is happening to me. I just don't know what to do and I can't get out. Leave.
Yeah.
Leave. I don't know what else to tell you. If it's not working and you say you care about or even love this individual and it listen, let them go be great with somebody else.
Right, be straight on over there.
But I tell my friends often, and they know I'll say this all the time. We like to hoard people. You ever heard of a people hoarder? Like, you belong to me. I don't want you with nobody else. And I don't care if I'm not perfect. You just gonna deal with it. No, I'm not. no, I'm not. We're adults. Like we are adults and we have to make adult decisions. And I'm not riding out my next 45 with you. I'm not gonna do it. Are you drilling holes in the boat? You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, and honestly, and I think sometimes we look at time as our excuse. We didn't been together 5 years, and you know, I was that person. I was like, well, dang, we've been together this long. I mean, we might as well try. No, if you're not, if it's not an equal exchange of us trying to work together and change, then why? Why would I continue? And I mean, this is Keandra's talking about Keandra. You know what I'm saying? Why would I? Why? But then it was, oh, it's time. Oh, I didn't put this work in. Oh, and then let me tell y'all the toxic thing I used to do. Now, I didn't build this man up for another girl to go ahead and get all this free,
I actually should start a service because I prepared every one of my exes to marry. Okay? Yeah, listen. All right? Listen here. I done double work through some issues, identify some problems. I done got them ready for the next one. But you know what? Listen. If you still talk about me at your Thanksgiving dinner, I'd have done my job.
Listen, you feel like, how you doing?
Hey, well, let me be your booking agent when you start. Let me be the one to book the client for you, dear.
Oh God!
Because I got something I want to send straight to you.
That was me. It was like, I'm not gonna do all this work. We're gonna stay together because I'm gonna reap the benefits of this. You know what I'm saying? But then my Bible says some plant, some water, some grow. It just is what it is. That's kind of nature of life. So I even had to stop that trait and that thought process. Like, I'm holding on because it's like, listen, okay, when did all this work, you became a good man.
I will say that, like I said, being married for a while, I will say I never tell anyone to stay or go. And now in a marriage, I'll say in a marriage.
Yeah.
Now before you're married, like you said, cut and run, because if you can get a glimpse into your future. But kind of one of the things that also, though, that I believe sometimes too is that in relationships, I don't think it's sometimes just time when you're single. I don't always think that time has to do with it. Right. I do believe, though, that giving things a chance, meaning, like you said, you've been preparing a lot of these men to get married. Sometimes even taking a step back as these things are happening, as these things are evolving, as long as your relationship is evolving, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to cut and run. It means that there's opportunity that something can change and grow. And so you may have been missing out on your opportunities because you cut and run too soon. Or
I'm sure, because I chuck you the deuces in a heart.
Yeah, or you missed the growth, the opportunity. Typically, like in marriages, though, what I do try to encourage when people are married is that that's not always the best thing to do. You know, they say it's cheaper to keep them. It's not always the best thing to do. Sometimes there might be periods in time in which you might be stuck when neither of you are growing right at this moment. Sometimes you might be in this season that everybody kind of stuck and we just not moving. But then those are the times in which you have to kind of dig deep and dig in and figure out how we can kind of restart the growth. And so
Right.
as far as, even single versus married, if you're single trying to get married, I would encourage you to start looking at it from that perspective of, when I see some things that I don't like, giving somebody the opportunity to either make the changes on their own or for you. Because again, like, I can have what I think is going on or what I think is not going on or what we think we ain't going to do. But sometimes if we just have that conversation and give somebody the opportunity to make the adjustments, if it's worth it. Because again, like we talk about, we're always growing.
Right.
Even in friendships and relationships, we're always growing. And because we're always growing and always changing, I just think that sometimes we might have to, I'm not telling you to lower standards. I'm not telling you to change what it is that your expectations are. But what I'm saying is that sometimes not everybody moves at the same speed, and you might be missing out on Boaz because maybe he doesn't move as fast. Like I said, I tell anybody on a job, I may not get there on time. I ain't gonna that is punctuality is just not my thing. But when I show up,
I'm a work. You work now. That's work.
Listen, and that's anything. Look, and so in relationships, sometimes, look, you might be late. I might get it later.
Right. And then I had that conversation not just recently where I was like, I don't think I give enough span and time for correction.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm okay with talking about the issue, but I don't think I give people enough time
to make an adjustment.
Mm-hmm. But then on the flip side of that, I'm giving time, and then my friend's like, "No, that's the wrong one to be giving the time."
Yeah, because some of them Negroes remedial.
Thank you, HB. Thank you. Thank you.
It was like, Will was with us today, and we was talking, and Allison, and I was like, yeah, and da-da-da-da, and Will was like, ain't that the one we told you to quit talking? I was like, dang, yeah.
I'm more of an action watcher.
Right.
I'm an observer, especially if something has been brought to your attention and then I don't see you making the correction. It's either not important enough to you or the relationship just isn't important enough to you.
Right.
Because the thing that I'm not expecting is you to change for me. That's not a for me thing. Mm-hmm. But if you agree to want to be in this whatever kind of relationship we define it as being, and you're not showing up doing the things that I've already expressed to you I'd like to see, then that to me that's a contract that's null and void. I don't need for you to tell me you're going to do something and not do it.
Right.
I mean, we can renegotiate, but if you're not willing to, show improvement, then I just don't have the time. I'm not one of them people that like to sit on the front porch and drink sweet tea. That's not what I do. Right. I'm gonna keep it moving.
Right. And I think where I'll let you say that real quick, but what I found out just recently about me is I can be an extremist because now I'm like, oh, I need to wait because I run too fast. But then it's like, no, you got to look at the circumstances. You know what I'm saying? No. This is not the one to hold. This is, you know what I'm saying? So I think that my focus be on the subject more so than everything else. Or, okay, Keandra, now you run too fast. You're going to pay attention. You're going to give people time. Okay, time. Well, how much time am I supposed to give? So I've had to, I've learned that about myself. You were going to say something, Terry?
Yes, I was just going to say that what I have found also just from experience is that sometimes telling somebody what it is that I need to see or, and not even necessarily in an ultimatum, say, okay, this is where we are in this place. You'd be surprised to know how infrequently someone knows how to get there. Like, have you ever gotten furniture from IKEA? Anybody?
All the time. I love it.
Okay. So that means that you're really good at following directions just based on pictures. So some of us cannot put things together just based on pictures. Some of us need a tutorial video. We might need the actual words. We might need it in more than one language. And so in our relationships or in these instances, a lot of times too, I don't think that it's even necessary like I'm waiting for you to make these adjustments. Otherwise, you don't care about me. Sometimes, whereas you're good with IKEA directions, you can just look at the picture and figure it out, right? Without ever having to look at step 1, 2, and 3. If you're like me, I might have to look at 1, 2, and 3, and then look for the video. And then when I look at it again, I'm still not sure. Go back and reread it. And so sometimes people need a little bit more time to figure out how to actually achieve or accomplish whatever it is that you're asking for.
So
Yeah,
when is it their responsibility to say that they need help?
if you putting together a curio from IKEA, and you need all of that, what you just said, I get it. But when it's a little nightstand, you a little remedial, and therefore there may be some deeper issues. That's what I'm talking about. That's my dealing. It's
Listen, it's
remedial.
levels to this thing, right, HB? It's levels
Yeah,
to it.
yeah. What she's
Levels
saying,
to
I
it.
understand,
not
but
the
I
nice
can't
man.
get to a
It's the nice
curio.
man that got
I got you. I got you.
This thing got 4 legs and a flat top. Why you on YouTube trying to figure this out? I don't understand.
HB, I'm telling you, you feel my pain. You
Yeah,
feel my pain.
I've seen some
Because
remedial people, man.
these aren't extraordinary things that are being asked. I mean, some people, again, like you say, depending on where they come from, what they've experienced, encountering someone who is a communicator, it's like, you hear, oh, you're a breath of fresh air. Yeah, until until I hold you accountable.
right.
And then you like, oh, you so hard on me. No. There's that breath of fresh air. You see, I ain't what you used to.
Look, I said that today. I was like, listen, I can guarantee you I'm probably not going to be very easy simply because I hold people account. Like I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to ask you the questions. I'm going to but I would expect the same thing. But a lot of times people, here's what someone told me the other day, that we're so used to people lying to us that when someone comes and says, like, I'm a realist, if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you, they automatically assume, yeah, right, you gonna lie. Everybody lie, right? Then you have Keandra, who's like, well, no. If you ask me, are you sure you want to know the answer? Because you might not like it. You have then that conflict of, because people are so used to people lying that when you have people like, I'm thankful for this panel, because when I tell you truth tellers, like I have never had to come to you and be like, you lie. Y'all lie.
Yeah, no.
Y'all lie. Like we just don't do that. Like it's always very honest, but always very straightforward. And so because I surround myself with people like that, and then when I meet someone who is just the total opposite, it just is, I can't understand that world.
It's a foreign language. It's a foreign language. And I don't speak Mandarin. Okay. So I'm gonna need you to either speak English or press number 2 for Espanol. I don't speak Mandarin, so I'm communicating at the level, at which I communicate. If it's too high for you, I can bring it down just a tad, but I can't come all the way down. I can't, because then I'm changing who I am at my core, and it's just not worth it for me.
Karen Adams says, hey, Karen. She says, part 2 is just as awesome as part 1. I'm waiting for part 3. I'm so proud of you all as Black men and women engaging in some of the necessary steps to fix toxic relationships. Look, they're trying to get us in part 3. I'm having
It's a mini series.
Series going on. Honestly, it has been amazing. We've gone over our time, so we're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up. Yes. But I want you guys to I just want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank all of our guests, the engaging conversation. What we have to do is look at ourselves, people. Yes. At the end of the day, the overarching thing that kept coming up is looking at yourself, thinking about yourself, taking it. You can't DIY it. You can't do that. Look at you, and how can you make the necessary adjustments so that you can live the life that you want to live with the person that you want to live it with. Let's say that, okay?
Yeah.
Like, we have to mature. There comes a point, and I said this last week, there comes a point where the 12-year-old that was raped should not rule my life. The 34-year-old that was cheated on and all this stuff cannot rule the 41-year-old. Okay. I can't walk in that. And so you got to get to a place where you are looking at you. So I'm going to give everybody a second to give their final thoughts and share any information that y'all want to share before we close out. And then we're going to get wrapped up here. Now, if you have any comments, please put them in there and I'll share them while we're doing our closing. Terry, you want to start? I see you first. We can start with you.
Well, I was going to say thank you again, family. I love y'all. I love these conversations. I'll be so glad when we do this like we used to do around the big old table. Remember? Listen, I'll be so happy when we can do this again like we do. But
all right, let's do it.
This has been fantastic. I'm so glad for the folks that came on. I hope you were blessed by some of this, and I hope you can start making some changes on the inside.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right, Chayezda.
I'm with Terry on that. Thank you again for, of course, inviting me. I love this stuff. Like, I can do this all day long. I learned so much. I wrote on both sides of a Post-it note. Jules been dropped. Emotional blackmail is like,
come on, that was good.
That one right there.
You gotta teach HB.
I know a little bit.
Listen, I've learned so much tonight, and I'm going to continue to do the inner work because I'm a naturally happy person. But it's one thing to be happy by yourself, but it's even better to be happy in relationship with the person you want to be in relationship with. Right. So I'm just welcoming that energy. But yeah, I'm a work in progress. I'm gonna keep it going.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I was hollering out. I thought she was done. Out there. It's all you, bro.
Yes, I'm here. All right. Well, I want to thank y'all. And again, I apologize for the connection issue. So I'll be happy when we can sit around the table and do that too. But I mean, I enjoyed myself. This was great. I'm still learning. Everybody's a work in progress. You can always learn, always grow. So this is awesome. I hope somebody got some good jewels out of this, and I hope you use them, apply them. Action is going to be from this point on, the action is going to be the thing that'll tell the tale. So thank you. And I appreciate you, Andrew, and everything you do. And thank you, everybody else.
HB?
Absolutely. Hey, I learned a lot. It was good laughing with you guys. My takeaways from this was let your past be your lessons, not your trap. And don't be remedial, man. And I can't I have fun. I can't wait to hear y'all next topic. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be just as blazing as the last two.
Wow. So at the end of the day, I think all of my friends here have said everything that needs to be said. The only thing that I will always say is always take a look. I'm going to repeat it. Always take a look at yourself, because you are with you more than you're with anybody else. Yeah. Always keep a listen of your thought process, because you listen to you more than you listen to anybody else. And the things that you are driving, the things that are happening around you is a direct reflection of your thoughts, of the way that you view things, the way that you see things. And so we want to blame it on someone else, but 99.99999, it is you. And it is in psychology wise, it is your subconscious. You may not consciously be thinking it, but you got to start dealing with the subconscious mind and healing of your soul and healing of your emotions. I've been asking God to heal my experiences and emotions. heal those experiences that were hurtful. Help me heal in those areas, simply because I've forgiven the people, but I never healed the experience I wasn't healed from. So I was still reacting to triggers based off of what that last experience felt like or looked like. And so really began to delve into, because listen, we know with the world that we live in, COVID, we don't know, you don't know what could happen today, tomorrow, in 10 minutes. But what I will not say is I will not leave this earth and not have dealt with me the best that I know how. And that's what I want you guys to take with you, to allow the people that are around you to experience the real you, the loving you, the you that God truly designed you to be. All right, guys. So again, my name is Keandra Ward. I am the founder and president of Keystone Business Institute. We are a school for entrepreneurs. You can find us online at KeystoneBusinessInstitute.com. We are here every Tuesday and every Thursday. Tuesdays, we talk about life, ministry. Thursday, we're always talking about business. If you know, marketing is my thing, branding, business development instructor. So that's my baby. So every Thursday, we're talking about that. But finally, I want you to remember, and I want you to always think about this and remember that you set the tone for your day, year, and your life. And I want you to make it a great one. Have a great evening, guys.
Bye.